Let's not sugarcoat it. 2025 is not the year to explain yourself. It's not the year to beg for decency, to justify your boundaries, or entertain chaos masked as a love. This is the year you cut them off, silently. Not for revenge, for your rebirth. Let's not sugarcoat it. Let's not sugarcoat. 2025 is not the year to explain yourself. It's not the year to beg for decency, to justify your boundaries, or entertain chaos masked as a love. This is the year you cut them off silently. Not for revenge, for your rebirth. Every day you wake up, every day you wake up with a limited amount of energy. That energy fuels your ambition, your healing, your future. It's sacred, and yet, how often do we casually give it away to people who don't deserve it? That friend who only calls when they need something. That relative who constantly criticizes under the disguise of a caring. That partner who drains more than they pour. Let's be clear, your energy is your currency, and in 2025, it must be protected like gold. Before you respond to a message, ask, is this person pouring into me or pulling from me? If they're a constant withdrawal, they're not part of your wealth. Let them go. Quietly. Don't announce your exit. Don't draft a farewell. Just protect your energy like your future depends on it. Because it does. Silence is so misunderstood. We've been taught to equate silence with weakness. That if we don't speak up, fight back, explain, then we're letting someone win. That's not true. Silence is not surrender. Silence is power. It's control. It's knowing when to speak and when to let your absence be the final word. Not everyone deserves a response. Not everyone qualifies for an explanation. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to say nothing at all. Let them wonder. Let them sit in the echo of their own actions. You're not retreating, you're rising. And when you rise silently, you rise without weight. You don't need to slam doors. You just walk away from rooms where you were never truly seen. There's a lie we've all been fed. That loyalty means staying, no matter the cost. But loyalty becomes poison when it starts killing your spirit. Holding on to someone out of habit, out of time invested, out of guilt. That's not love. That's sabotage. Some people came into your life for a season, not a lifetime. Stop turning temporary lessons into lifelong sentences. You don't have to keep proving your loyalty to people who never respected it. The length of the relationship does not equal the depth of its value. Its value? In 2025, choose yourself without apology. Loyalty to others is noble, but loyalty to yourself is non-negotiable. And when that line is crossed, don't argue, don't negotiate, cut them off. Silently, they'll say you've changed, that you're cold now, that you don't care. Let them talk. Let them talk. You're not cold. There's a difference. Clarity makes people uncomfortable when they're used to you being confused. When you finally decide to draw the line, people who benefited from your lack of boundaries will always paint you as the villain. Let them. That's their story to tell, not yours to carry. You don't owe softness to those who only gave you sharp edges. You don't have to keep performing the version of yourself that made everyone else comfortable. You've done the people-pleasing. You've done the over-explaining. That chapter is closed. You're not being mean, you're being real. This is what healing looks like, and it doesn't always look like a smile. Growth is uncomfortable, but it's also revealing. As you evolve, your circle will shrink. Don't panic. You're here to be real, and the truth is, not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Some people were only clapping for you when you were small, confused, accessible. Now that you've grown into your power, into your purpose, they're silent. That silence speaks volumes. Pay attention. When people don't celebrate your growth, your wins, your confidence, that's not love. That's competition. That's envy dressed as support. Don't argue. Don't prove your worth. Just stop inviting them to your table. Let them eat elsewhere. They crave closure like it's the final step to healing. But not everything broken needs to be stitched back up. Some things just need to be left behind. Closure isn't always a conversation. Sometimes it's a decision to no longer seek validation, a decision to stop reopening wounds, hoping they'll heal differently. They'll heal differently. The truth is, some people thrive on your reaction. They want to keep you in the loop, in the cycle, in the chaos. Don't give them the show. Take your peace and go. You don't have to explain your silence. You don't have to defend your distance. Your healing does not require their understanding. It only requires your commitment to protect what's left of you. Cut them off, not with noise, not with rage, but with the grace of quiet freedom. Silence has always been misunderstood. We grow up being told that silence is submission, that if you don't speak, if you don't fight back, if you don't explain yourself, you're weak. But here's the truth. Silence is not weakness. It is power, sharpened and refined. It's control over your emotions when everything inside you wants to react. It's knowing you don't owe the world your voice every time someone demands it. Silence is the decision to rise above noise. And let's be clear, there's a kind of silence that screams louder than any words ever could. It's the kind that says, I've outgrown this conversation. I've outgrown this chaos. I've outgrown you. In 2025, this kind of silence is your weapon, your boundary, your protection. We live in a world obsessed with visibility. Everyone wants to be heard, to be understood, to make their side known. But power isn't always in being seen. Real power is in being unshakable when you're invisible. It's in the stillness. You see, when you stop explaining yourself, when you stop entertaining the drama, when you stop needing to be validated by people who have already shown you they don't value you, something shifts. That silence, that refusal to play their game, is terrifying to those who only know how to operate through conflict. Because now, they can't control the narrative. They can't twist your words. They can't manipulate your reaction. You've taken away their fuel. Whoa. And nothing is more powerful than taking control of your peace without announcing it. You don't owe anyone access to your healing. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your transformation. There is something deeply powerful about no longer responding to provocation. Not every insult needs a comeback. Not every betrayal needs a confrontation. Not every goodbye needs a closing statement. Sometimes, the real flex is knowing exactly what you could say and choosing not to. Because you've realized that your voice is not for those who misuse it. Your energy is not for those who drain it. And your attention is not for those who disrespect it. That's the power of silence. It's not emptiness. It's intentional space. Space to breathe, space to build, space to become, space to become. Understand this. Silence is not passive. It's not sitting back and doing nothing. It's a conscious decision to remove yourself from noise that no longer serves you. When you stay quiet, you're not retreating. You're watching. You're observing. You're calculating what's worth your time and what's not. And more often than not, what you realize is that most arguments, most explanations, most emotional outbursts, they're distractions, they're traps. They're traps designed to pull you back into old patterns. Patterns of proving your worth, defending your value, seeking closure that's never coming. Silence is how you say, I'm not going there anymore. It's how you reclaim your focus. It's how you protect your mental clarity like it's sacred ground. You'll notice something when you start moving in silence. The people who thrived off your reaction, the ones who poked you just to get a rise, will start to feel uncomfortable. Because when you stop reacting, you remove their power. They don't know what to do with your calm. Your quiet makes them confront themselves. That's the irony. Silence doesn't just free you, it exposes them. It reveals the truth about people's intentions. Were they invested in controlling your emotions? Did they want resolution? Or did they want dominance? When your silence enters the room, everything fake gets loud. You don't have to lift a finger. Let your peace provoke them. There's a discipline in silence. It requires restraint. It requires emotional maturity. It's not easy to hold your tongue when you've got receipts. It's not easy to walk away when you know you're right. But this year, it's not about being right. It's about being free. It's about prioritizing your sanity over the need to be understood. Because the truth is, some people already understand what they've done. They just don't care. They don't deserve your words. They don't deserve the explanation. They deserve the sound of you moving on without a single word. That's the kind of silence that shifts everything. That's the silence that builds empires. And that's the silence you hold with pride in 2025. There's something incredibly destructive about forced loyalty. Loyalty that's expected, demanded, or manipulated out of you. We're taught to wear it like a badge of honor. To say, I've been friends with them for 15 years, or they've been there since day one, like that alone is reason enough to keep tolerating the pain. But let's be brutally honest. Time invested does not justify emotional debt. If the connection is built on guilt, manipulation, or obligation, it's not loyalty, it's self-betrayal. Some people are not holding your hand, they're holding you back. In 2025, you're not sacrificing your peace for the sake of shared history. You've done that long enough. Just because you once needed them doesn't mean you need to carry them forever. It's easy to mistake length for depth. Just because someone's been in your life for a long time doesn't mean they've been showing up in the right way. People change. Relationships shift. And what once felt like alignment may now feel like weight. Loyalty becomes toxic when it's one-sided. When you're always the one forgiving, always the one reaching out, always the one making excuses for their behavior. That's not strength. That's surrender. And in the name of loyalty, too many people stay stuck. They hold on to friendships that outlive their purpose. They maintain family bonds that are more abusive than loving. They stay in relationships that drain their soul just to avoid the pain of cutting ties. But you know what's worse than the pain of cutting someone off? The slow death of staying connected to someone who is quietly killing your joy. You have to redefine what loyalty looks like. Loyalty is not just sticking around when it's convenient. It's not staying silent to avoid conflict. For they're silent to avoid conflict. It's not enabling someone's toxic behavior because you don't want to lose them. Real loyalty has accountability. Real loyalty says, I love you enough to call you out. And when that's missing, when someone demands your silence, your support, your energy, but offers none of it in return, that's your sign. Loyalty without reciprocity is just a leash. And you are not anyone's emotional pet. You don't belong in cages built out of nostalgia. In 2025, your freedom comes first. Your healing comes first. And no amount of shared memories is worth sacrificing your mental, emotional, or spiritual growth. The moment you decide to choose yourself, you will be labeled. They'll say you're selfish. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you've changed. They'll call you distant, ungrateful, even arrogant. Let them. That's what happens when people can no longer benefit from your self-neglect. The louder their labels, the clearer the truth. They were never really for you. They were for what you could do for them, how you made them feel, how you showed up for them, even when you were empty. And when that version of you starts to disappear, it threatens their control. That's why they'll resist. That's why they'll talk. But don't flinch. You're not being cold. You're being clear. Clarity is powerful. It's uncomfortable, but it's clean. And the more you lean into it, the less you'll tolerate anything that dims your light. Let's stop pretending clarity is cruelty. It's not. It's necessary. You're allowed to grow out of relationships that once fit you. You're allowed to evolve past the people who once felt like home. Because sometimes growth means leaving comfort behind. And people will guilt trip you for that. They'll try to remind you of who you used to be. But growth doesn't ask for permission. It demands decisions. And when you're finally honest about what's no longer working, what's no longer feeding your soul, the path becomes clearer. That's not cruelty. That's survival. That's alignment. That's you finally honoring your truth over their expectations. And with that clarity comes a freedom you've never known. It's not about anger. It's not about drama. It's not about walking out with fireworks and final words. It's about simply recognizing when the weight is too much and putting it down, quietly, cleanly, with no resentment, just release. Because the truth is, some people won't understand your growth until they feel your absence. And by then, you'll be too far ahead to look back. This isn't about punishing anyone. It's about preserving yourself. You don't have to prove who you are to people committed to misunderstanding you. You just need to keep walking, eyes forward, heart intact. No need to scream. Just go and let the silence speak for itself. They will say you've changed, and they'll be right, but not in the way they think. You're not colder, you're not distant, and you're not bitter. You're clearer, sharper, more intentional. What they're really feeling isn't your absence. It's the weight of their own expectations crashing down when you stop meeting them. See, people don't mind who you are as long as that version benefits them. They cheer for your softness until your softness demands boundaries. They love your loyalty until it says enough. But the second you stand firm, say no, or prioritize yourself, you become the problem. And in 2025, you're not here to fix anyone's narrative. You're not shrinking yourself to fit their comfort zone. You're not walking on eggshells just to be alike. You're done being digestible. You're here to be whole. For years, you were conditioned to perform, to smile when you were hurting, to agree when you disagreed, to bend until you broke. And every time you compromised a piece of yourself to keep the peace, you chipped away at your own identity. But now, you see it. You see how much of your life has been lived through filters of fear, of guilt, of needing approval. You've played the role they needed. The fixer, the forgiver, the one who always shows up. But who showed up for you? Who held space for you to be flawed, messy, complicated? No more. You're not performing anymore. Not for friends, not for family, not for anyone who refuses to meet you in your fullness. Clarity stripped away the roles. What's left is real, unapologetic. Comfort is often a trap disguised as connection. You stayed in friendships too long because you didn't want to hurt feelings. You stayed in rooms you outgrew because you didn't want to be judged. You watered yourself down just to keep the harmony. But now you realize harmony that silences you is not peace, it's prison. You were never meant to play small. You were never meant to be palatable. You were meant to disrupt, to elevate, to evolve. So let them mislabel you. Let them call you selfish, distant, intimidating. You're not here to be understood by people still committed to misunderstanding themselves. Your clarity is not an attack, it's a mirror. And some people can't handle what it reflects. There's a kind of strength that comes from choosing yourself, especially in a world that constantly teaches you to choose others first. That strength doesn't roar, it doesn't boast, it simply exists in your decisions, in your boundaries, in your silence. When you stop explaining why you're unavailable, when you stop apologizing for needing space, when you stop over-explaining why you walked away, that's not cruelty, that's sovereignty. You are reclaiming your time, your energy, your emotional bandwidth. You're no longer accessible to everyone, and that's not arrogance, it's alignment. Because not everyone who has your number deserves access to your spirit. And in 2025, you're no longer available for conversations that require you to shrink. Clarity isn't just about knowing what you want. It's also about recognizing what you will no longer accept. You start to feel it in your gut, in your energy, in the way your body reacts when someone walks into a room. You stop overriding those signals. You stop rationalizing red flags. You stop explaining away patterns that have already told you the truth a dozen times. When you become clear, your standards elevate. Your tolerance decreases. You no longer settle for emotional crumbs when you've tasted the fullness of your worth. And while that may mean fewer people around you, it also means stronger foundations, real connections, and relationships that honor your growth, not resent it. Let them say you're hard. Let them say you've changed. What they're witnessing is evolution. What they're feeling is the absence of the old you, the one who tolerated too much, gave too freely, and stayed too long. You're no longer dancing to earn love. You're no longer shrinking to avoid abandonment. You're no longer filtering yourself for someone else's comfort. You are clear. And clarity is magnetic to the right people and threatening to the wrong ones. But you're not here to be measured by who walks away. You're here to be aligned with what remains. And what remains after clarity is everything that's real, everything that's earned, everything that finally feels like peace. There comes a point in your life where you stop negotiating with chaos. You stop debating your worth with people who never saw it to begin with. You stop justifying your silence, your boundaries, your peace. And that moment, that bold, quiet moment, is when your real life begins. Because here's the truth: not everyone gets to go with you. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table just because they showed up when it was being built. Some people were never clapping for you. They were just clapping close enough to hear your next move. In 2025, you're not explaining why they can't come. You're just closing the door. No announcement, no speech. Just energy withdrawn, peace protected. You have to understand that proximity does not mean loyalty. Just because someone was near you doesn't mean they were with you. Some people walk beside you just to study your steps, not to support your stride. They watch you, imitate you even, but the moment your light starts to shine too bright, they flinch, they compare, and competition disguised as friendship. That's the most dangerous kind. You don't need people who love you in public, but resent you in private. Resent you in private. Who cheer with their mouths but roll their eyes with their hearts. This year is not about surrounding yourself with familiar faces. It's about protecting your space from familiar threats. There's a shift that happens when you get tired of entertaining performances. When you stop participating in relationships that feel more like auditions, where you're constantly proving you're enough, constantly earning a love that should have been unconditional, you begin to see through the facade. You start catching the sarcasm that's really bitterness. You hear the compliments laced with envy. You notice how often they talk over your wins or stay silent when you need them most. That's when you know you've outgrown them. And here's the thing: outgrowing people doesn't mean you hate them. It means you love yourself too much to keep shrinking just to keep them comfortable. Love without growth isn't love. It's codependency, and that's not your story anymore. The dangerous thing about emotional familiarity is that it tricks you into thinking it's loyalty. You become addicted to shared memories, even when the present is toxic. You cling to how it used to be while ignoring how much it's costing you now. But you can't build a future on nostalgia. You can't heal in the same room where you were broken. And you can't grow while carrying people who refuse to walk. Let that sink in. Some people choose not to grow, not because they can't, but because growth means accountability. And accountability would expose what they've been running from. In 2025, you're no longer slowing your pace for those who refuse to take the first step. You're not their savior. You're not their crutch. You're free. Energy doesn't lie. You can feel when someone isn't for you. You can sense when the vibe is off, even if the words sound right. And too often, we override that knowing. We silence our gut. We give second, third, and fourth chances because we confuse potential with consistency. But potential is not proof. Consistency is. And if someone shows you they are more than once, believe them. You're not here to keep stitching together relationships that tear you apart. If someone's energy drains you, confuses you, or leaves you second guessing your worth, it's time to listen to that discomfort. It's not being dramatic, it's being awake. And once you wake up, you don't go back to sleep. This is the year of alignment over attachment. You're no longer available for friendships that only work when you're losing, for conversations that revolve around their pain but ignore yours, for people who only love you when you're easy to love. You're done explaining your boundaries to people committed to crossing them. You're done making space for energy that doesn't respect yours. It's not personal, it's sacred. It's not rejection, it's redirection. You're not heartless. You're not cold. You're finally clear. And that clarity is expensive. Not everyone can afford it. And that's okay. Because the ones who can, they'll meet you on the other side, where peace is the norm, not the prize, where loyalty is quiet, not performative, where love is real, and finally, reciprocal. There's a power in walking away quietly. No fight, no drama, no grand exit, just silence and presence withdrawn. Because not every betrayal needs confrontation. Not every disloyalty deserves a reaction. In fact, the loudest response you can ever give is no response at all. When people show you who they are, really show you, you don't need to convince them of your worth. You don't need to argue or explain why you're done. You simply leave, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. Because your peace has become too expensive to keep negotiating with people who only value you when they're losing you. In 2025, silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's strength refined. It's the final word without ever saying a thing. Sometimes silence is the only language that speaks truth. When you stop returning calls, stop responding to energy that once pulled you in, stop attending emotional fires you didn't start, people notice. They feel it. And it's not because you're being cold. It's because you finally learned how to preserve yourself. They expected chaos. They expected a scene. They expected the old version of you, the one who always needed closure, who always had something to prove. But silence changes the game. It flips the power dynamic. You're no longer operating from reaction. You're moving from resolve. And that shift, that's evolution. That's the quiet rising of someone who no longer trades their peace for temporary validation. The truth is, most people don't hear you when you're crying. They hear you when you go quiet. Because silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of power. It's what happens when you've repeated yourself enough times, explained your boundaries enough times, forgiven enough times. Silence says, I've said all I needed to say. with my actions. And while they may try to provoke a reaction, stir up guilt, or paint you as the villain, your silence holds the line. It says, I'm not here to play roles anymore. I'm not here to dance around dysfunction. I'm here for peace. And that peace doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't knock. It walks in and clears the room. When you cut someone off silently, you reclaim your narrative. You stop being the version of yourself they manipulated, gaslighted, or underestimated. You stop giving them access to the most sacred parts of your energy. And without the noise of trying to explain yourself, you find space to rebuild, not out of spite, but out of purpose. Because cutting someone off doesn't always mean they were evil. It means the connection became misaligned, imbalanced, unsustainable. Imbalanced, unsustainable. And the more you grow, the more you realize you don't owe anyone continued access to you just because they once knew your heart. You've evolved. And with that evolution comes new terms, new energy, new boundaries. No broadcast, just quiet, deliberate action. Let them wonder. Let them sit with the silence. Let them replay every moment, trying to figure out when you slipped through the cracks. That's not cruelty, it's consequence. You gave your time. You gave your effort. You showed up over and over again until you didn't. Until it became too heavy. Until you realized that staying connected was costing you parts of yourself that you could no longer afford to lose. And when you reached that point, the point of no return, you didn't explode. You didn't burn the bridge. You simply walked away. Calm, clear, done. That kind, clear. It lingers, and eventually it teaches. You don't need to destroy someone to leave them behind. You don't need to write a monologue or craft a dramatic exit speech. You just need to decide, this no longer serves me. And then act accordingly, quietly, powerfully, powerfully. Cutting them off in silence isn't about punishing them. It's about protecting you. It's about choosing peace over explanation, healing over chaos, self-respect over reconciliation. In 2025, you're not chasing closure. You are the closure. Your absence will be noticed. Your silence will speak volumes. Ooh. And your peace? That's the only story that ever really needed telling. In the end, the power isn't in the noise you make, but in the peace you preserve. By cutting off what no longer serves you, you make room for what will. You protect your energy, prioritize your growth, and refuse to compromise your peace for the sake of familiarity. You no longer have to explain why you chose yourself. You simply live it. And the people who are meant to be in your life will understand that. They will recognize that your silence isn't emptiness. It's fullness. It's the echo of someone who knows their worth, who is unapologetically focused on their own healing, and who is unapologetically stepping into the life they deserve. When you walk away quietly, you don't leave a void. You make space for the life you were always meant to have. And in that space, you will thrive.